All right, Scout, the first question is for you. How did you get involved with The Long Night?
I actually got a call from Rich when I was in the UK doing a horror convention, and I got a call that he needed an actress in like 3 days. So I've worked with Rich before on Ghost House, and I've had such a amazing experience working with him. So it was kind of a fast yes and a fast flight on over to Charleston to go start filming.
Right, and Rich, how did the story come about? Because the cult stuff was very interesting, and the supernatural stuff in The Long Night was also very interesting. So, how did you mix all of that together?
Well, it was an existing script that they handed off to me. And when I got to set, there have been a couple other directors that had been kind of left the project for one reason or another before I got there. So the producers gave me the ability to sort of rework the script however I saw fit. And so we hired a writer that was a friend of mine, and he and I worked together to sort of develop this kind of mythology that's sort of based on, a number of different world religions, so that we could kind of create something that was at once sort of familiar, but also kind of, big and strange.
And Scout, this performance by you is very well done, and it requires a lot out of you. So, how did you bring the character out in The Long Night?
I'm not one of those actresses that needs to like be a method actor. I don't know. There's just something that's in me that's able to do these characters that I've kind of like learned throughout the years of doing a bunch of horror movies. I've learned to like find my voice. I've learned to find what my strengths are, and honestly, I think when you're comfortable with a director like I'm comfortable with Rich, there's just like this trust, and he's constantly pushing me and I'm constantly pushing him. So it's just like, it's bound to make a cool film.
Right. And Rich, Scout mentioned that she's worked with you before in the Ghost House. So, how did this business relationship all come about?
Well, when my brother Kevin and I were going to make Ghost House together, we have our own production company, and so we wanted to shoot this movie in Thailand, and we met with a casting director that knows Scout, and we had a list of actresses that we thought would be interesting, and Scout was the first one on the list because we had seen her in the Rob Zombie films and thought she was great. And so when we met with Shannon, our casting director, she was like, "Oh, I know Scout," and just called her from the restaurant where we were and set up a meeting. And I don't think we met any other actresses. It was just like, it was pretty much like, "Oh, Scout's awesome. Okay, let's go." So,
And I'm so glad you brought up those Halloween movies too, because I get a lot of slack for it, but I really did enjoy those Rob Zombie Halloween movies. And Halloween 2 is probably one of my favorites of the franchise because it is so bold, and it does take directions that you would never think the Halloween franchise would do.
Mm-hmm.
And that is awesome that I'm talking to you now, Scout, because I'm such a huge fan of those as well. So,
thank you.
was there anything challenging to film on The Long Night? Because, like I mentioned, it is kind of a supernatural film dealing with the cult. Was there anything just challenging to film during The Long Night?
I feel like, there's always things that are challenging in horror movies in this genre, to be able to execute, from the blood to the supernatural to the special effects to, there's just like so much stuff that goes into it. I feel like every day, I think, Rich, we probably had like a challenging thing to get. But I think for me personally was probably doing, not losing my voice from screaming, and not injuring my body from thrashing myself around. And we were shooting on location that was filled with swamps that had like live alligators, and a lot of our stuff was at night, and that scared me because sometimes I would be like in the pitch black, and I'd have to pass the swamps by myself. It's just like, it was like a weird feeling. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting challenges, but that's what makes it fun.
Rich, how about you?
Well, I mean, it was a very compressed shoot. We didn't have a lot of time to shoot the film. So for me, on a technical side, it was very challenging because it was like a lot of stress. So we had a lot of stuff to get done in a very short period of time. Fortunately, I had like Scout and Nolan and, the other actors in the film, that everybody was super professional and very good at what they do. And so that definitely made my job easier, but it was hard. It was a hard shoot.
Yeah, that's the next question I have for you. Since Nolan couldn't be here today, how was it like finding Nolan? Because this is really a two-person show with a long night, and it really depends on the chemistry between Scout and Nolan. So how did you find Nolan for the long night?
Nolan was actually recommended by the same casting director who had introduced me to Scout. So, I'd never worked with Nolan before. Scout had, and they have a great chemistry. They're just like very good friends. So that really helped.
Yeah, it was interesting because Nolan and I worked on this movie called Triple Dog with Britt Robertson, and we didn't really get close on that set because it was a big set, and there was a lot of girls, so like the guy characters kind of just came in and they were gone, and we didn't really get close. Nolan and I got close while filming this movie, and now we are such great friends. So I do kind of owe it all to Rich to making that friendship. But we discovered like this crazy chemistry between Nolan and I that just like kind of works. Like we're constantly looking at doing films together and all that stuff because it just you can see it on film.
Yeah.
Right, and this question is for both of you. We now live in kind of the golden age of premium videos on demand and videos on demand as well, and getting those with theatrical releases at the same time. So how do you guys feel about this new age that we're coming in to, the digital age where everything's really easy to grasp at home and feeling safe? And, with COVID going on, how do you feel that this will get a video on demand release along with the theatrical release as well?
Well, look, I have mixed feelings about it because, you want people to be safe, and it's great that we had, if this pandemic had happened and we didn't have, all of these access to all of these things, it probably would have driven everybody totally insane. That said, I love going to the movies and I love going to the theater, and we shot this movie to look good on a big screen. We shot for a big screen. So I would prefer people to see it in a theater, but if they're not comfortable, I'm happy that they have this opportunity to watch it on demand, So one way or another, I hope people see it. But, if I had my preference, it would be in a theater turned up real loud with popcorn,
Yeah. I mean, I think I also have mixed feelings with it as well, because I mean, there's so many outlets and there's so many movies being released constantly. I like whenever I'm on Netflix, one of my first genres that I do go to is horror. And there's all these movies that I haven't even heard about that were this year, last year, or, years prior. And I think that's kind of something with like having all these outlets and the movies going straight to streaming, that sometimes we might not learn about these films. If they would have gone to theater, we would have learned about them, so sometimes it takes away with that. But I like going to theaters. I like seeing movies on the big screen. Like I went and saw Scream on the big screen. It's just something about, especially with this genre, I feel like you need to go see it in the theater.
Yeah, it's it's more immersive, and it's also like, especially if you can see it in a theater with people, with a lot of people around you. I mean, it's like there's a collective kind of energy.
But it also, I mean, it gives good thing about it is it gives all these outlets for these indie movies from new directors, and obviously there's a place for their films, which I think is really fabulous.
Yeah. So you
Yeah,
just
and
kind of
one thing I'd
go ahead.
and one thing I'd agree with you guys on about the movie going experience is that it feels like a theme park, right? I mean, you have IMAX, you have Dolby Cinema, you have RPX, you have 4DX, and like you can't get that at home. To where if you see, like they're even re-releasing so many old movies in 4DX and IMAX now, it's incredible what they're doing.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
and we just saw Spider-Man just cross 1 billion, the
Yeah.
first film to do that since 2019. So I think the cinema is far from dead, but it seems like it's a big movie production or nothing nowadays is what it seems like in the
Yeah.
box office revenue.
Yeah, it's very hard for a smaller movie right now in theaters. It's just, there's just not the tentpole things like Spider-Man take up all the oxygen,
Which I feel like if we keep on doing this route with just like all these Marvel movies are seem to be like the only films that are going to theaters now.
Yeah.
It seems to be like we're just pushing theaters out completely. And
Yeah.
I just hope that that's not the case. I mean, I really hope that I don't have a kid when I'm 70 who's like, oh, do you remember theaters? Do you remember those theaters?
Me, back before they beamed it straight into your brain.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, do you guys remember Betamax?
Yeah. I just hope that that's not what's coming to the future.
Same.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's been really fun, and congratulations on the long night.
Thank you, man.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.